Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to?
Welcome again to Street Talk. My name is Ahmad Shakaraki. And on Street Talk, we deal with political, social, and economics here in Michigan, the U.S., and abroad. Now, joining me tonight,
Dennis Burnside.
Paget Maynard.
All right, man, we got a lot to cover tonight. But you were saying.
Well, I'm of the opinion that we're reaching an inflection point in the political and governmental environment that we've come to know over the past 450 years. I think settler colonialism is on trial right now. And the hot spot, of course, is Gaza.
Mm-hmm.
But you're starting to see movements all over the world where people are coalescing around the idea that we can no longer have power and political advantage and economic advantage given to the white settler colonial class only.
Mm-hmm.
In the past week and a half or so, we've seen peaceful demonstrations on college campuses across the country being disrupted by agent provocateurs,
Mm-hmm.
which the New York Times doesn't have the courage to properly identify. Instead of calling them what they are, agent provocateurs, they call them counter-protesters.
Mm-hmm.
But we're starting to see this idea that you can't justify what is happening in Gaza. You can't justify what's happening in the Congo. You can't justify what's going on in Sudan.
No.
You can't justify the mistreatment and abuse and exploitation of people and downright murder and abuse of people for your own economic and political power.
Mm-hmm.
Young people who have the ability to communicate in ways that didn't exist in the past are now starting to see the same message and are coalescing around this idea. And it's ironic, too, because in August, we're going to have the Democratic Convention in Chicago.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's going to be heavily protested against.
Mm-hmm.
We already know that.
Yeah.
The only question is, will it become violent
in
68?
Yeah.
But we're looking at the same type of paradigm. You had the Vietnam War,
Yeah.
which was all about colonialism
Mm-hmm.
and exploitation. And now we're seeing the same thing here in 2024 in Gaza, and it's coming to a head. And I think the Democratic Party has a big problem. We know that the Republican Party is a white supremacist party.
Yeah.
They're anti-Semitic by definition.
Yeah.
They don't give a damn about Israel.
No.
But they will use words that indicate to Netanyahu, yeah, we're down with what you're doing because we're white colonial settlers ourselves.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to how they feel about people that are Semitic, they hate them.
Yeah.
But on the Democratic side, you have a real schism here. You've got a coalition. You've always had a coalition with the Democratic Party. But now you've got a key part of that coalition, young, educated, progressive voters who are looking at what's happening in Africa, looking at what's happening in Gaza, look at what's happening in other spots of the world that aren't even in the news anymore, like in Australia with the indigenous people there. And they're saying enough of this stuff. We're not going to quietly sit by for political expediency and say, okay, we'll table it for now. We'll deal with it tomorrow. They're saying right now is a time to deal with it, and we're going to let you know what we're thinking.
So you think you believe and I surely believe we're going to have another thing like 1968 in Chicago.
I was wondering when Dennis was speaking, before he finally said it, I was wondering, is it going to be another 68? I don't know. I hope not, for the sake of everybody. But it is possible.
Yeah.
And I think some of it is going to come from outside of the party. Outside of the Democratic Party, you're going to have some folks who are pushing to create problems there.
Well, I don't think the demonstration is a problem. I think that's well ensconced within the First Amendment. You go there.
I'm talking
and you
about the
protest
harder
peacefully.
stuff.
Yeah, but the agent provocateurs, of course, they're going to show up in Chicago. I mean, back in '68, before the convention even happened, you had groups like Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young coming up with a song about Chicago, saying, "Join me, come there, we can change the world." This youth movement that we're seeing now mirrors almost identically to what happened in the late '60s. Part of the problem we have is a lot of people have amnesia. Some of the people who were against the Vietnam War, who protested in the streets and on the campuses, or at least supported them, are now sitting at home eating bowls of potato chips, watching Fox News saying we ought to do something about those protesters.
Yeah.
They're not asking themselves, who really is the violent ones at these protests? Don't you remember what happened with Dr. King in Memphis? I'm sorry, in Memphis in 1968 before he was assassinated, attempting to have a peaceful march in support of the garbage workers, and it was disrupted and discredited by violent agent provocateurs who were sent out by the government. We now know that. That's not speculation anymore. We know that because of COINTELPRO and how that was revealed to be what it was. You think the same thing isn't happening now? You had people at USC peacefully protesting for almost 24 hours. And then you had these people coming in masks and these dark clothing coming in there getting violent, and the same thing happened at UCLA. I'm supposed to believe that those were just just people who organically showed up because they thought that to protest against what Israel is doing is somehow anti-Semitic, and we're going to stand up there, we're going to counter that protest. You got to be completely naive to think that's what happened. What happened was you had provocateurs who are going there, probably in the name of Netanyahu, certainly in support of Netanyahu, who says, we can't have this gain traction. We need to discredit this. And the best way to discredit this is to beat up some people, to throw some people into the ground, and watch the police sit back there and eat donuts, don't say a damn thing. And then when it finally ends, the cops go in there and they beat up women who are dean of philosophy or professors of history or older gentlemen who say, I teach here as faculty, and I didn't want to see you be violent with my students, so they throw him to the ground. So you can't look at what's going on now and not compare it to what happened in 1968, to Paget's point, if you have any sense of history at all.
Right. Go ahead, Paget.
Okay, go.
One of the things is that I'm just kind of not worried about, but thinking about is that we got a lot of people, we got millions of people out here who don't read the news, don't listen to the news, so they're just out here, and that's what worries me, because we got a lot of things happening now, and we got a lot of people out here don't know anything about what's happening.
Hey, man, what's the definition of apathy? I don't know and I don't care. If you look at U.S. elections, that's what it is. We have, 320 million people in the United States? And of those, I think maybe 180 million of them are of voting age.
Yeah.
And of those 180 million people who could go to the polls and vote, what do we typically see in any presidential year election?
About 47%.
40 to 50 million people vote.
Yeah.
So you've got people who are apathetic. You have people who've just been discouraged. You've had people who say it's futile anyway. My vote doesn't matter.
Doesn't count.
Yep.
And that message is endorsed and it's conditioned in a way to say, yeah, you're right. You might as well stay home.
Yeah.
We'll vote.
Yeah.
You
As a
just stay
matter
home.
of fact, there are those who are actively asking people to stay home.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which means if all of these people stay home, you have a much smaller percentage of the people making a decision to affect 320 million.
Yeah.
And then you go
Yeah.
across the country and you see where, especially from the GOP, in fact, I won't even say especially, I'll say exclusively from the GOP, where they're passing these anti-democratic laws,
Right.
where local democratic movements will come up with a vote to have automatic registration. When you renew your driver's license, you're registered
Yep.
to vote.
Right.
When you vote in this election, you're automatically registered to vote in the next election. They're doing the opposite.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
saying
They're
to people,
cleaning out.
if you didn't vote in the last election, you're removed from the roll.
Yeah.
And we won't tell you
Yeah.
when you go to show up to vote. You'll
Yeah.
find out that you're not eligible
Yeah.
to vote.
And you know
if
what?
you didn't proactively go out and register each time, depending on where you live, because if your zip code is the kind we like, of course you automatically register. We have a situation in the state of Washington where the Republican Party of the state of Washington, a blue state, has said they don't want U.S. senators directly elected. They want them appointed. Now, if that doesn't tell you what their anti-small d democratic motivations are, nothing else will. They don't want democracy. They never have wanted democracy. You could look at it from the original construction of the Constitution and take it all the way up through the tensions leading up to the Civil War, through Jim Crow, through Reconstruction's brief appearance where for about 12 years we did have democracy,
Yep.
and then its destruction, and all the way up through the Voting Rights Act where we had green shoots of democracy, which have been destroyed in the 90s by the prison industrial complex, on out to where we are now.
Yeah.
If you have people out here who are advocating for justice, advocating for anti-colonialism, advocating for free democracy and democratic principles, they are shut down.
Oh, yeah.
and they're demonized as somehow anti-democratic themselves.
Yeah.
And how could, well, maybe I shouldn't even say it that way. How could we ever say we are the center of democracy in this world when we don't even know how to practice it?
Well, you say it with a straight face.
Well,
Because they said it in 1860, right? They said it in 1880 after they destroyed Reconstruction, right?
Okay.
They said it all the way through the early 20th century, and you had Jim Crow rampant
yeah.
with a democratic ideal. They had black men going overseas in the 19s to fight for the United States and the idea of democracy, come home, and they'd be lynched
Yeah.
for walking down the street in a uniform with the chin up in the air and the shoulder square.
Yeah.
So we've always been anti-democratic, small d.
Yeah.
And now, this is something Ahmad and I were talking about previously. You've got tools now that are really hard to shut off. At one time, Twitter was the voice of a democratic movement worldwide, and you saw worldwide support for the Arab Spring in the early 2000s. That resulted in a change, at least an attempt at change. Well, Twitter's a cesspool now. You had it bought out by a billionaire.
Yep.
All you see on there now is unabashed name calling, profanity. You even see pornography on there. You have people calling each other racial epithets. It's no longer a place where you can reliably go for information.
Right.
Well, what replaced it? TikTok. And they disparage the hell out of TikTok. Yeah. Talk about how our young people waste their time. Yeah, if you give anybody a tool, you could give somebody a television instead of availing themselves of something that's edifying. They're going to use it for porn, or they're going to use it for cooking shows, or reality TV, or whatever mindless garbage captures their imagination. You can't change what's between people's ears, but there's a lot of information on TikTok that young people are sharing that is putting jet fuel in this anti-IDF movement. When you see a video of a child shot outside in Gaza for having the temerity to kick a soccer ball in the direction of an Israeli soldier, and he's shot in the head and killed, you can't spin that.
Yeah.
You can't spin when you see people lining up for a food truck after being instructed that's where you need to go. And then being machine gunned down by the IDF.
Yeah.
You may not show that on CBS. It may not be on Fox or MSNBC, but damn it, it's on TikTok. And these young people are seeing that. And they're seeing it in Ghana. They're seeing it in France.
Yep.
They're seeing it in Spain. They're seeing it in Korea.
All over the
They're
world,
seeing it
man.
all over the world. And that's why this youth movement is coming out, and they are pro-Palestinian in a way that says, I recognize their humanity. I recognize the fact
And
that
that's
they
perfect.
are God-created people who need to have the same rights as you and me. And this is not about me being a fan of Hamas.
No.
This is not about me being a fan of any particular political ideology in that area. I see living, breathing human beings
Humans.
being treated like they are vermin, and I'm against that.
Well-
and so when you have protests in London at multiple universities, when you have protests at universities in France, in Australia, in Japan,
man, in all
in
the
South
major
Korea,
places.
all over Africa, when you have people saying that what's going on in the Congo and the Sudan right now is just unacceptable, how do you put a cap on that? Well, what you do is you say, we're going to outlaw TikTok, and we're going to do it because of security issues. Come on. Come on.
That goes back to what Ahmad said about the way they get the news, how many people are watching. And because this one says you shouldn't watch TikTok. But isn't that where you said the young people are really getting a lot of their information
Absolutely.
today?
Absolutely.
So why are you wanting to take this from them? Give me a good guess.
Control.
One. Another good guess. Keep them ignorant.
Yes.
Yeah, because we've got a million of them. Don't pick up papers. Don't pick up the paper to read some. Read. Don't listen to news on radio. Don't watch it on TV. So they just out here,
Yeah, but
know.
you got also people like me who read 3 or 4 papers a day. And you've got young people who may not have time to read newspapers, but they're studying. And they're studying next to someone whose grandmother lives in Palestine.
Right.
They're studying next to someone whose grandparents survived the Holocaust, and they look at what's going on in Israel and say, I can't ride with that. I'm Jewish, and I cannot ride with that. That is anti-humanity. And so when you have that, you don't necessarily need newspapers. You need to have some type of awareness, some type of way to open up your eyes and ears to the reality of the world that you live in. And young people have always been amenable to that. That's why you had the anti-Vietnam movement become so powerful. Young people back then probably didn't spend a whole hell of a lot of time reading papers. And to their defense, man, the New York Times, which is the paper of record, sometimes I think about canceling my subscription, but I also feel this compunction that I need to know what's going on, so I
Yes.
keep it going. But their both sidesism is becoming toxic. You have this situation like I described earlier where you have these agent provocateurs go on campus and act violently, and then the New York Times describes them as counter-protesters. Man, get out of here.
Yeah.
They're not counter-protesters. They're there to discredit the protest and turn it violent.
Yeah, I get this journal once in a while, but I get the USA Today I get it 5 days a week, and I noticed in the last few weeks, man, they just really been irritating me the last few weeks, because almost every day they've got Trump in there. It's like, is he the only somebody that's making news now? Every day is something about Trump.
You jump and watch the television, and it's the same thing
Yeah,
all day long.
yeah.
Trump. But I think it's important too. I mean, not negating the other stuff that they're not doing, but it's important for people to know and understand. And the only way they're going to get it, especially those who are the Fox followers, the only way they're going to get it because they're going to want to see what's going on in this case with Trump. And a lot of things are coming out that they're going to learn that this man isn't what they thought he was. He is nothing like, the man is, he's just, I use the word bastard.
He's an empty suit.
I really hope
Yeah.
that they was watching when he said that he would like this. He would turn this country into a dictatorship for one day.
Look, I said it here before. The only way it would be one day if he killed himself right after.
Right.
Because you can't switch it off just like that.
Right.
And he thrives, Donald Trump thrives on anything that makes him look good, big, and bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the moment you turn that off and he has nothing, he's a dead duck.
Well, the bigger problem is he's got people who are more than just sycophants.
Yes.
They're pushing him out there and letting him be the one to take the bullets and be the verbal bullets. I don't want to make people think I'm talking about violence.
Right.
But there are people out there who like what Trump is doing because he gives them room to operate because they're anti-democratic.
Yeah.
Just like we talked about the state of Washington's GOP saying that passing legislation where they didn't want the Senate elected by direct votes, you see a lot of anti-democratic movement within the Republican Party. The Republican Party has always been a white supremacist party, but now the disguise is being taken off. They have no interest in democracy.
Oh, no.
They have no interest in one person, one vote.
No.
And they'll do everything they can to make it seem as if the people who are advocating for the right to vote, the right to free speech, the right to demonstrate on campus are somehow anti-American.
Well,
So Trump for them is a perfect avatar.
Yeah, they're trying to right now. A lot of the Republicans are trying right now. All the Democrats, they're the one tearing down things, and it's like, what?
Well, you had on University of Mississippi, Ole Miss, Oxford.
Yeah.
You had a demonstration there, which of course was disrupted by agent provocateurs, and you had an administrative person, and forgive me, I can't remember what her job was. I believe she was a dean of one of the schools down there. Black woman, come out there and try to protect her students from violence, and she's greeted with hoots and monkey sounds and racial epithets that the police just thought was just fine.
Yeah.
They didn't interrupt it at all. They let it go on and on until the people got tired of calling her names. And you ask, those are 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22-year-olds doing that.
Yeah.
They go home. Good job, little Jimmy Bob.
Yeah.
Because that's the culture that they come from.
Yep.
So if you tell me that Trump is this and Trump is that, Trump is only doing what he's enabled to do.
That's it.
So I think we need to know exactly what this trial is all about. I mean, it's the first time a U.S. president has ever been tried criminally because Nixon got off the hook with a pardon.
Yep.
But we need to know all the facts and details. But to your point, I think where you're going is we can't let that obviate our understanding of what else is going on in the world.
That's
It's
right.
much more
That's
important,
right.
which
That's right.
is right now this worldwide movement to end settler colonialism. People are up to the neck with it. They're tired of it.
But
Go ahead.
at the same time, whilst some are trying to end it, you have some of going down, digging deep, trying to make sure it stays.
Of course.
And spread.
Yeah. Well, we look at right now. It's between 17 and 21 or 22 states right now really clamping down on
The right to vote.
the right to vote.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I mean, it's like...
Wait a second. We used to, at one time, laud ourselves for this ability to get out there and vote. Now, the people that you put in office are preventing you from voting so that they could stay in office.
I'll take you one further than that. You've got an entire party, ostensibly half of the United States, who's saying that we ride with Putin. We want totalitarianism. We want authoritarianism.
But didn't you hear that in Congress?
We don't want people to have self-determination.
Yeah.
We don't want people to have autonomy. We want them to have a boss that tells them what to do, even if he's not of that nation. And by the way, we want that same thing here. That's what our
That
boy
was
Twitler's
going
for.
on in Congress just recently.
Of course it was.
Congress representatives getting there and plainly saying, basically, we want Putin.
Yeah.
We want a Putin.
It's ironic, too, when they passed that appropriation for Israel
and thing there.
and Ukraine. You had the Democrats whose votes carried it flying Ukraine flags, and you had the Republicans booing and objecting to the fact that Putin was going to have some pushback with arms supplied by the U.S. government. Hey, man, if you could look at what's going on and say that this is a democratic republic and it's all one person, one vote, and we're all about freedom, you have to be one of the biggest fools that was ever born.
Well, like you said earlier, and like you said, this is supposed to be the great country, and all this freedom and all that, but
no, man, we lost track.
For 500 some years, we as black people, we haven't had it.
That's what I said, man. You can 1492, 1619, 1860, 1875, 1930. 1965, you could keep going down the list of periods of inflection points where the powers that be say we're white supremacists, and that's what we're all about. And now we're up to another confrontation right now, 2024. This is a movement against white settler colonialism and its political and economic and military power against people who are melanated.
You know the worst part of all of that?
What's that?
Even some black folks, like your buddy out of South Carolina, Scott, he was asked if he would support the outcome of the election, win or lose, whoever won.
And he refused to answer the question.
He can't even answer that. Well, the next president is going to be Donald Trump. But are you going to take whatever the outcome is? Well, that was my answer.
You know, I wonder if his testicles are in Trump's pocket.
Probably.
He gets him back on the weekends if he's a good boy during the week. I don't understand somebody having that lack of pride in their own humanity. I was going to say manhood, but there's plenty of women out there who do the same damn thing. You saw this woman up in South Dakota, the governor there, brag about shooting a dog, and now she can't wait to moonwalk it back while still trying to justify it because I'm tough, I'm hard. Woman, what's wrong with you?
And one of these one of these ladies said, "Tuck on your gun and everything."
That sounds like empty green.
She said, have your gun and everything. It's like, I mean, it's just really, and we could go on and on, but time is up, and we'll discuss more of this next when we do another show. My name is Ahmad Shakaraki, and we'll catch you down the next block for more Street Talk. Peace.
Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you are too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power. And I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God.